Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the 11 o'clock hour on Friday, August 11th. We've made it to the weekend. Almost, people.
Almost.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
The weekends are very welcome these days for me.
I'm sure.
Yes, I am very excited to relax.
Can I throw in a reminder for Sunday
Yeah.
about your baby shower?
Baby diaper fundraiser.
Fundraiser. It's at Nomad Pub on Brady Street in Milwaukee from 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
And if you want to bring diapers or you want to bring a check for the Milwaukee Diaper Mission, you can do that. And you can bring cash and all those things.
You can bring cash. You can also, if you can't make it and want to still donate to a great organization, you can just go to Milwaukee Diaper Fund. MilwaukeeDiaperMission.org. Let me make sure that it's .org. Because I'd love to know also if anyone's listening, because obviously it's right in the name, Milwaukee Diaper Mission. It is MilwaukeeDiaperMission.org. If there's other diaper banks in other parts
that
of
are
Wisconsin,
similar,
because obviously they serve a Milwaukee and Southeast Wisconsin population and community. But it is, as we talked about with Megan when she was here, is it Tuesday? Wednesday? I don't know. Tuesday.
they all smushed together.
And this is not a problem that's just affording diapers is not something unique to people in Milwaukee. And so if you know of other diaper funds that are working throughout the state, shoot us an email at asgoeswisconsin@civicmedia.us. I would love to know other organizations that are also working on this because
it's important.
It's important and they're expensive. And also, this is both sad and kind of funny. There was a tweet this morning that I retweeted because it's just mostly because poop is just a funny word. Let's be honest. But I saw this came out yesterday and I was trying to make a joke about it, but it's also potentially, if you get more details of the story, probably something that has links back to
not being able to afford
diapers. And so Waukesha at Waukesha Alerts on X/Twitter said, "Poop disaster at 701 East Moreland Boulevard. 2 PD units responding. Caller reports there were 3 children wearing just diapers full of poop were all over the playground, and now there is poop reportedly, all in caps, everywhere on the playground and in the park."
Yeah.
And it's kind of a funny scene to think about this poor park that's just toddlers having a poop brigade. And but also how the toddlers get out, why is their diapers full of poop? So it's like, if you actually, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not.
Yeah.
And
as Megan had pointed out when she was here, unfortunately, there are some people who have to reuse disposable diapers.
Yeah. So we're very excited to be raising money for them and also raising diapers. We've been getting diapers delivered at the house that we're going to be bringing from friends who live out of town. So fun way to support a great organization.
You can meet Kristin, meet the bump.
You meet the bump. I'll be wearing all white because it is an all white party. Mike wants to look like he's on Yacht Week in Croatia, drinking an Aperol Spritz. So,
all right.
So it should be a very good time. But my question, and I don't know how long we'll stay on this, but multiple things for you to call in on today. The first one is, do you want to keep hearing about Aaron Rodgers? We're approaching the football season. Technically, we have
preseason's underway.
This is this weekend. We finally get to see Jordan Love. Family night was last weekend. It actually looked really fun.
It was packed.
But he is a superstar. Not only is he a superstar, he's also Hard Knocks this year. HBO's or Max's annual show where they follow and do kind of a reality show on an NFL team is on the Jets this year. And I wonder this as someone who, when I've looked back at videos I've done for social media, typically ones that I know are going to do well, if I'm being totally honest, do well as in get a lot of views, get a lot of comments, because a lot of people have a lot of feelings. Is something about Ron Johnson or something about Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, that's fascinating.
And And it seems like the Journal Sentinel is in the same predicament. Because in their newsletter this week, they asked the same question. Says, do you want to keep hearing about Aaron Rodgers? And I think as a Wisconsin news outlets, it's like on the one hand, you're like, let's move on. He is not our quarterback anymore. He's somewhere else. We are moving on. But it also, there's clearly interest there because people keep clicking on it and reading it and wanting to know what's going on.
Wanting more.
And so as we prepare for the different segments that we want to do for the fall with sports, how much is Aaron Rodgers to you in a story to talk about? 844-967-2789. Because I think when people say what they say is that they're ready to move on and would like to spend zero time discussing Aaron Rodgers and focus instead on Jordan Love and on the 2023 Packers team. But it's also like, I think there's some people who might still have a soft spot for him. And I think there's also people who have like a vindictive, like
They hate watch
him.
Yeah.
And there is something, it's the same way we pay attention to the Kardashians. If you hate the Kardashians, or just people who like get under your skin, but there's something like that you get out of railing against them. But they said, so whether or not people say they don't want to hear about Aaron Rodgers, they know because they have data that when they write about Aaron Rodgers, readers are definitely consuming the story.
Right.
And I think we have less real-time evidence of people like we move so quickly on this show that I don't know if people are tuning into the show necessarily just because we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, but certainly it's the same is reflected in videos that I've done. And maybe that's because it's a more of a national audience because there's more people in general. But I just think it's really interesting is what we say we want, which is to move on, actually what we want. 844-967-2789. How do you feel? Do you want to keep hearing about Aaron Rodgers, or do you want me and everyone else in my field to just shut up about it?
Texter from the 262, no. Aaron Rodgers is dead to us. He lied about his vaccination. That was it for me.
There you go.
844-967-2789. Another texter from the 262. Packers fans, hearing about Aaron Rodgers is like a person dating who keeps hearing about an ex having a great time and knocking boots with a new great significant other.
That is a great analogy.
And I was thinking about that. It is. He's a boyfriend who broke my heart. And I don't wish him ill, but I don't want to have to be reminded of him all the time.
Do you have feelings one way or another of how you hope he does at the Jets?
I hope he sucks.
I know. Me too.
And I just massively contradicted myself and I said, I don't wish him ill. I think
you don't want him to get hurt.
No, of course not. But I know the arrogance meter on that guy just peaked. And
Did it peak though? Is it at its highest point? I don't know if we know yet.
There's always room for more arrogance, I'm sure. But I hit that peak like 2 years ago. It's like, dude.
You personally, or you about Aaron Rodgers? Did you hit your peak arrogance 2 years ago, Jane?
No, I got a ways to go. Gotta have something to shoot for. No, I got fed up with Aaron Rodgers and all the Peaky Blinders haircut and all the weirdness and the staying in the dark for a month. And good, go do your thing. I just don't want to have to deal with it.
I know. And
but
I think the bitter breakup is the best analogy for it.
It is,
because it's not just, I don't know. It's also the fact that he went there and he looked so happy.
Yeah.
And he took a pay cut and and now there's like a TV show about it and it's just all these things. And then if they come out and like they have a great season, it's going to be kind of a hard pill to swallow.
No
but
question.
Again, then the question becomes like, do we talk about it?
Well, I mean, it's going to have to come up. We talk about NFL football.
I know.
I don't know that we can completely avoid it, as tempting as that might be.
But like, so is there like, do you keep it just to how the team is doing and not any of like antics or the things that he says or doesn't say or all of the reading in between the lines that I feel like we've done for the last 3 years, 4 years?
Well,
Basically, yeah, like 3 years. Because basically, I feel like this all started when they drafted Jordan Love. And I had just moved back to Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm going to say antics or his arrogance or whatever word you want to put on it, as far as when I think like his the perception of his personality shifted, I feel like was circa 2020.
I think you're right.
I feel like prior to 2020, everyone, whether he was or not, but the perception of him was guy who gives a lot to charity, really nice, like, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, which I'm not going to wear that shirt anymore. And so with that, does it now change? Like, it's changed around 2020. And I think, most people would say it was probably to do with Jordan Love, not him personally, but the drafting of him. And I don't know. I just, it's a weird, because he is attention. I think he's attention seeking, but we also give him the attention. And I'm just curious if you at home think, like, do you have that itch to scratch that when there's a headline about him, do you find yourself still clicking on it? Or do you just say, no, I don't care. Talk to me about Jordan Love. When we come back, we got a call?
We do have a call.
All right. We would love to also hear from you or shoot us a text, 844-967-2789. Do you want to keep hearing about Aaron Rodgers or not? This is As Goes Wisconsin. Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Matinaire, and we are talking about whether or not you want to hear about Aaron Rodgers, because a lot of people say they don't, and then some of the data shows that people still do.
They click on it.
They
watch it. They read it.
And so we're asking you, if you're being honest with yourself, is it still an itch that you like to scratch? Or is it something that you just keep moving on by when you see any news coverage about our former guy in, anything, I guess. 844-967-2789. Jim from Appleton. Do you want to keep hearing about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, not really, but you guys were talking about him and having a good starting season. If you look at his starting lineup, he's going to get his derriere kick because he's playing the Giants, the Bills, the Cowboys, Kansas City. I mean, those are all top 10 teams in the NFL. There's no way they don't have an offensive line that's even going to help him. So he's going to get his butt kicked. So more power to him.
All right.
See, now that I might watch, Jim.
See, there you go. See, you've been paying attention more than I have, because I did not know. I have been hearing that. I thought, I don't know. I just trust the pundits because I don't follow. I don't follow
everything
it close enough to watch with my own eyes to have my own opinion. So I listen to people who that's their job.
Right.
And so I had not heard that, Jim, but that is, we'll see. We will find out. How are you feeling about the Packers this year?
I really don't have a lot of love for Love, but I got my fingers crossed.
Okay. Love for Love, because you don't have a lot of faith.
I don't think he's got it.
Okay.
And I don't think we can be lucky enough to go from a Favre to a Rodgers to, another winning NFL quarterback. I mean,
it's pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all right, Jim. You and I will hate watch Aaron Rodgers and watch him on Sundays.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for the call, Jim.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. We have a text from John in the Falls. For years, Aaron Rodgers refused to fully dedicate himself to what it takes to win a Super Bowl. He was more interested in making every dollar he could, manipulating the fans and the media to satisfy his ego. Bringing up his name sucks all the air out of a room, just like Trump. Let's all just move on and enjoy the players that actually want to be here.
It is interesting to think of the characters who are like that, who do that. Like, off the top of my head, I think it's Trump. It's Aaron Rodgers in a very different way than Trump. But now, like Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
It's like these guys who are newsmakers, right? Like, no matter, like, it's this like cycle of whatever they do becomes a headline, and because it's them, people click on it, and it just keeps going, even when it's not news, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, who else is like that?
I think those are the top 3 as far as.
Would you throw Kardashians in there? I feel like they make the news just for living their lives sometimes.
Do I?
I know how much you hate them.
I can't say that word. They're like Voldemort to me.
Are they the worst for you? Like, I feel like you're like I don't know if there's anyone who drives you crazier, and I see you like clench up more than when we mentioned them.
Well, and I think it's because they haven't put anything good or useful into the world.
Well, they have now. I would say Skims is one of the top, like what the line that Kim Kardashian has created for like her underwear line is one of the top selling underwear lines in the world. And it also like they make accessible underwear for people who have disabilities. And she actually is like, she's working on getting her law degree. She has like advocated upon people like getting out of jail and stuff. Like they have done stuff. They just, the way they got there was by selling their soul.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, good for the underwear. Yay. Now go away. Just do it in quiet, okay? I don't want to have to look at you or see that all your spawn, that entire family, just ugh. I just don't like them.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's like, is that your top, like...
It's pretty high on my list.
As far as who just you despise the most.
And you can throw Paris Hilton in there and she's
barely in the news anymore.
Oh, she still shows up. She never accomplished anything.
She's another one who's actually advocated a lot because she got sent to one of those camps for like
unruly teenagers.
Yeah, and so she's actually helped a lot of people who have gone to those camps because they're super abusive, and so she's like gotten some of them closed down. So she's done some stuff too.
Yeah, well, and she also promised that after she went to jail that she was going to do all this stuff for women in jail, which she never did, as far as I know.
I don't remember that story.
That's going back a ways.
Okay.
When they carted her off to jail, she was crying in the backseat.
What did she go to jail for?
I don't remember. It wasn't long.
I don't remember Paris Hilton going to jail. Did she steal something?
No. I'll check on it over the break.
That was Winona Ryder.
Yeah. No, it wasn't shoplifting or anything.
All right.
We'll go back and look.
All right. Well, when we come back, if you still want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, or if you don't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, we will get the hint because if you do want to talk about him, 844-967-2789. And if you don't, we'll move on. We're finally coming back to I Am the Sphincter, or Am I the Sphincter? Because we haven't done it. We haven't done it for a while because we've had so many guests.
I know.
And this one,
at
least the one we're starting with, sometimes these are funny and lighthearted. This is something that I feel like a lot of families actually probably end up dealing with. But it kind of deals with the fact of like, what is fair when it comes to paying for your parents, or more specifically, your in-laws' assisted living? Is it splitting things evenly, or is it proportionate to who's making the most money? Does it matter if it's your parents versus your spouse's parents? This one's pretty messy. And I feel like it's something that a lot might be relatable. That's something that you've gone through. So we would love to hear your opinion on Am I the Sphincter for this week? 844-967-2789. This is As Goes Wisconsin, and we'll be right back.
But you're still a really, really handsome guy.
Thank you.
You're a douche.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristin Bry. She is Jane Matinaire. And we are on the home stretch of our Friday show. Very much looking forward to the weekend. You said we got some love on the text line?
We do. You can always check in. You can call and or text at 844-967-2789. We were talking about whether or not you want to keep hearing about Aaron Rodgers. And so we're just going to kind of wrap up some of these text messages. Catherine from Madison says, I love having two women do a radio show, but for me, talking about Aaron Rodgers is People Magazine territory, a complete snooze. From the 262. Now I'm going to be singing Hank Jr. for the rest of the day. Monday Night Football. Also in the text line from WAUK. So done with Rodgers. I don't want to hear about him unless he throws 4 interceptions and gets sacked 5 times. Then I will be laughing. He's gone. Let's get over it and move on. And finally, this is from John in the Falls. He said, I thought I couldn't love Jane any more than I already do. I think that's in relation to my Voldemort.
Yeah, my Kardashian rant.
My the name that shall not be uttered out loud. Yes.
Did you figure out what Paris Hilton went to jail for?
Oh, I was busy.
Well, we could go back to that. I don't think that's super important, but we promise on this show, unless it's actual news.
It was 10 years ago.
What was it for though?
Oh, for pity's sake. We'll have to come back to it.
Okay. We will limit Aaron Rodgers talk to actual news and not just, did you see what he did on Hard Knocks?
Right.
All right. So I'm interested to see how people feel about this because I don't think this is I think these are conversations that have to happen a lot.
These are real life things.
And we've talked about how expensive assisted living care is on this show before, how it's only getting more expensive, how it's only getting harder to find. And it is not an easy scenario, but
No.
this was am I the sphincter? Because we can't say a-hole, from Reddit that I thought would be interesting to get everyone's opinion on. So it's kind of long, so I'm going to read the whole thing. But if you have thoughts on this, text us, call us 844-967-2789. All right, here we go. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife we're not going to pay our fair share for her parents' assisted living? This whole situation has gotten way out of hand to the point where everyone is yelling at everyone and I'm sleeping in the guest room. My wife's parents are at the point in their lives where they can no longer live by themselves. Their children decided the best place for them is an assisted living facility. They started to look into different facilities, and admittedly, I didn't help because I figured the 5 adult siblings could handle it, and I was never close to my in-laws. They found one that was perfect, and my wife was very excited when she told me about it. I was less than thrilled when I found out our contribution will be roughly $3,000 up front and then $5,000 a month. I immediately question why it will cost roughly $15,000 up front with an upfront fee and then $25,000 a month for 2 people in an assisted living apartment. I admit I sarcastically asked if their apartment is next door to Elon Musk's parents.
Wrong time for a joke.
Yes. She then told me that we're going to cover the lion's share of the costs because we make more than her siblings. That was the beginning of a week of texts, phone, and in-person arguments. She argues that her siblings make less money combined than we do, and some are single, so it would impact them more, thus, so it's only fair we pay more. She also argues that this facility is not the best or the most expensive, it's a mid-tier one with the best ratings. According to her, anything lower have bad ratings and could put her parents' safety in jeopardy. My argument is that there are 5 siblings, so the cost should be divided equally between the 5 of them. I also argued that if 5 people can't afford that place, they need to lower their standards. That started a circular argument for hours between cost and safety. I couldn't take it anymore, and in the heat of the moment, I yelled, we don't make more than your brothers and sisters. I make more than all of you, which is why you all want me to cover the cost for your parents. That was the beginning of my nights sleeping in the guest room.
Yeah, well,
I know as a married couple, I shouldn't consider mine and yours income, but realistically, I do make more than all of them, and I think it's unfair to make me pay the largest portion. And then he gave some updates because this started to get a lot of traction.
Sure.
So he said, I'm going to answer some questions. 1, I assumed it was $25,000 a month because I assumed it was split 5 ways between the siblings, and our share was $5,000 a month. It'll be closer to $10,000 a month, and our share is $5,000. So they're paying half, with the other half split between 4 siblings.
Okay.
Her parents have assets, including a house, so I was told they don't qualify for government assistance, which we've talked about before as well, that they would need to sell the house and spend down.
Yes.
I brought up the idea of selling their house, but was shot down immediately. The siblings want to keep the house in the family because their great-grandfather built it or something. 3, I can afford to pay it, but I don't want to based on principle. Their division means I'll be paying $5,000 a month while the youngest brother will be paying only $300 a month and will be living in the house. Their thinking is that he'll be paying the insurance and taxes on the house, so he can't afford more than $300. 4, I'm the only child to my parents. While they planned out their retirement, they worked their entire lives to put me through school and supported me through several degrees. I will be solely responsible for and will make sure their remaining days will be comfortable. 5. Per your suggestion, I asked my wife if we're going to contribute this much money to her, if we're going to contribute this much money to her parents, how they're going to contribute to my parents when their time comes. She answered, "Don't be an idiot. That's an entirely different situation." Number 6, I don't want ownership of their house because it's very old and needs major work. I brought up the idea of selling the house again and it was shot down again. They're not budging on it. 7, none of us know the laws and regulation when it comes to this, so I finally got her to agree for us to sit down with an estate attorney. 8, unless I feel up to it, this is probably the last update. I feel completely emotionally drained. I always knew my parents would get old, but I never thought about it.
Well, you got to think about it, and I'd start thinking about it now. If you're in your 30s and your parents are in their 50s and 60s, it's coming. And
What
our
a
friend
mess.
Joe McClear from Appleton would be
Yeah.
a good person to have on to talk about this. There's so many things going on here.
844-967-2789. If you have thoughts on this scenario, we would love to hear it because there is a lot. And I think the straightforward question is he the jerk or is he not the jerk for his feelings on the situation? But obviously there's a lot more nuance in that if there's other aspects that you think people should be thinking about. I'm trying to put myself in the scenario of, I mean, at least Mike and I are already talking about this with our parents.
Which is brilliant.
Right? Like,
that's brilliant.
To a certain extent, we're already talking about because he is taking a new job. And so like also like he is going to be making more money than me. And so like we're starting to figure that out. It's like, listen, like, because right now we split everything.
Right.
We have our shared costs and all of our own money is our own money. If he wants to buy sports cards, that's his money.
Right. It's not coming out of the pool.
But like as bigger things for college tuition for kids, assisted living for parents, like, is it a proportional thing between you and your spouse? Is it about based on who makes the most money? Is it everything split evenly? Is there an agreement when one spouse is working and one isn't? So there's all of that. But then you add in another layer of siblings. And because this is, I mean, you have 5 siblings.
Yes.
And like the idea of emotions that can come up because of resentment of like, well, Bob can pay for it. Bob makes a lot of money.
Bob is rich.
Bob's rich. Bob's
Mhm.
more expensive, like has more money than all of us.
Right.
His wife does not sound very understanding.
Well, for one thing, you can't say that we need to use your money to take care of my parents, but then when it comes to your parents, well, you're on your own. I think that's pretty harsh, right?
And I don't know with his update of like that's a totally different situation because I think he's thinking about it. He's like, I'm going to be the only person who has to pay for both of my parents when the time comes because I don't have any other siblings.
Right.
So what happens then? Are you guys going to help me cover that?
No.
And no.
Dexter from the 541 says, so the youngest sibling is essentially getting the house for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, getting the house to pay taxes and insurance on it, but like doesn't have to pay a mortgage, doesn't have to pay
buy it.
to buy it.
Right.
Like
no down payment. I would think first and foremost that they would sell the house.
Yeah.
It's harsh, but that's what you do to help finance their care. That's part of the, that's just part of it.
It sounds like a lot of them are like, to me, it sounds like the siblings are like cake and eat it too situation. We're not going to sell the house. We're not going to find a more affordable spot.
And we want Bob to pay for it.
And we want Bob to pay for it.
And I think where Bob is the jerk is, no, you don't want to downgrade their care.
No, that is also true.
I mean, seriously. And if it were his parents, I think it would be an entirely different, well, let's just find a cheaper facility. You don't want to do that.
Well, and it comes back to the conversations we've had about any kind of healthcare or even just pet care, right?
Oh, yeah.
Of like when your person or your loved one, whether it's human or not, is sick, the lengths you'll go and the money that is like, I guess we're spending it because I mean, we're not giving up. We're not putting them in a bad situation.
Right.
Is like it just becomes like you don't think about it. You're like, we'll have to figure it out. Like we have to. And but because I totally agree with you of like, oh, we'll just go to a cheaper place
No.
is not.
That's not a good idea.
And that sounds, I mean, depending on where they live,
What
5K per person
per month?
per month is, I think, pretty standard.
I think that's pretty average.
I mean, yeah, I almost swear. I was reading this morning. It's $5K a month just to live in like apartment in New York right now. But that's a different topic.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Angie from Monroe. This ended up happening with my mom and her parents and her siblings. My mom, bless her soul, worked her whole life. She ain't got a dime in her name, so this day they hardly ever speak anymore. It's especially sad if it's about money, and if someone has it, why not? That's where the greediness comes in lately. A lot of religious people have a lot of greediness in them. And a texter from the 262, the husband is the sphincter. There are things you can think about a spouse, in-laws, whatever, but you don't say them out loud. For better or worse, when you marry your spouse, you marry their family. The wife is a peach for wanting to take care of both her parents and siblings.
I do agree that he shouldn't have said that.
Well, you can think terrible things, but when you say them out loud, it's awfully hard to shove them back in.
Especially to yell it like that. Like, I
Right.
think it's one thing to be like, listen, you're asking our budget, which is part of like, this is what I pay for. Cause it sounds like they have a scenario where she maybe doesn't work. His wife doesn't work and he does. And it sounds like he has a very good job. And it sounds like he can afford, like, this is not going to break the bank for them, but it's on the principle. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because he wasn't included. Maybe it's because they're not budging and compromising on anything else. And so the fact is like, it's just coming down. Like, that's the thing to me. It's like the fact that there is no other compromise, it sounds like, from the siblings or his wife. And it's either like we're either doing it or we're not doing it. There's not another offer to like have it be a different split instead of them just paying half. That I don't know. I feel like I would have a hard time asking my husband if we were in this scenario to not at least listen to his concerns. But yes, I agree that he shouldn't have yelled, "We don't make more money. I make more money." That is never a good. That's never a good way to end a discussion. It's a good way to start a fight. But we will. If you have more thoughts on this, we have one more segment. We also want to remind you that you can still, for PAC benefits.
If you're a veteran, you need to do this.
Yes, we'll talk about that on the other side of the break too. But if you have thoughts on this, Am I the Sphincter? We would love to hear from you. 844-967-2789. Is this guy the jerk for telling his wife that he doesn't want to pay an overproportionate share for her parents' assisted living? This is As Goes Wisconsin.
I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And it sounds like so the segment if you're just joining us, we read Am I the Sphincter, aka Am I the A-hole, which is a subreddit on Reddit where people submit their dilemmas in their
really
life.
popular. It's a really
very popular.
Yeah.
Where they, from their point of view, try to break down something that happened in their life and get feedback from strangers on whether or not they're the jerk in the situation. And this one I thought was messy and also relatable because it was a husband who makes a lot of money and his wife and her 4 siblings kind of coming to the conclusion that they should pay more of the share for her parents' assisted living because they make more money. And he did not agree.
No, he did not. 844-967-2789. The outburst and his money was certainly sphincter-esque from the 541. I would suggest Bob start an account for his parents' long-term living and explain to Mrs. Bob this is not money to be touched. Also question, if the Bobs get divorced, then how will the siblings pay for the care?
That is a really good question.
That's an excellent question.
Alimony?
Wow.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I mean, but also, had she not married someone who was successful, what was their long-term plan?
Right. It doesn't sound like they had one. And that's why I think, and here's John from the Falls Chicken Inn. Sounds like maybe the parents need to sell the house to whichever of their kids are interested in owning a share of it, and then split the cost among the number of kids that want part ownership. Then the parents could use the money from the sale for their monthly expenses and keep the house in the family. It sounds like there are plenty of jerks to go around.
Well, and it sounds like in one of his updates, that was like, well, why don't you just buy the house? And he's like, I don't want the house.
Right.
And so maybe no one else can afford to buy the house that could then cover the.
But I still think that the house has got to go.
I know.
I do.
I know.
It's harsh and it's painful, but I just think that's where you start. Texter from the 262, I'm listening to your conversation about long-term care. It is very important that people consider long-term care insurance while they are healthy enough to get it. It is going to be too late for the couple going into a facility, but the husband's parents might still be eligible.
Oh, that's good to know.
And that's what our friend Joe McClure has said too.
Yeah.
It is get this insurance while you can still say, I don't have 47 pre-existing conditions.
I mean, it's such a, like when I read this, sometimes because like the other ones were so that we could have gone through today from the subreddit. It was like, am I the sphincter for wearing a bikini even though my sister just had a baby? Am I the sphincter for calling my 8-year-old selfish? Like stuff that was like a little bit more trivial. But I read this one and I was like, I feel like this is something that
we're living it.
Yeah.
People are living this.
Don't that more and more people are, it's fights between spouses, it's fights between siblings. And it's like such hard decisions that have to get made for loved ones because our system is broken. Our system's so broken when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to aging care.
Yes.
It's man, this is a bummer way to end on a Friday.
Well, we're gonna go out on a better note.
Okay.
On something that is good for veterans. It's called the PACT Act. And here's John Stewart with a little quick explainer on what this will do.
The PACT Act is a bill designed to give veterans the health care they need who've been exposed to burn pits and other toxins, leading all the way back to Agent Orange and their benefits had been denied because they hadn't been able to be service connected. So veterans were getting cancers and lung diseases and all kinds of other immunological responses and immune disorders, and it wasn't being covered in their health care and benefits, and they were dying, and their families were going bankrupt and struggling. And so this bill addresses those things.
And the VA, by the way, now, this is why it's a big deal. The deadline to file a PACT Act claim has been extended until this coming Monday, August 14th. It's one of the largest healthcare and benefit expansions in VA history that can affect your benefits ratings, especially, again, if you've had exposure to burn pits and Agent Orange. And it is my understanding that provided you file by Monday, you may be able to get a year's worth of retroactive benefits.
That's what I understand too.
So, and people have a lot of different views about the VA and the efficacy of the VA. I haven't had to live through those frustrations, but this is certainly an effort in the right direction.
Yeah.
To get our veterans who deserve it, the help that they need.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you know a veteran, if you are a veteran, if you are in touch with veterans groups, just please spread the word. Again, you have until this Monday, and I'm sure you can just go to the VA website and there will be a place they can send you to the right place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't let this opportunity pass you by. I know it's filing paperwork and filling out forms and it's all a drag, but there were a lot of people who fought
really
for
hard.
this.
Yeah.
And I would like to see as many people who are entitled to these benefits get them.
I agree.
Right.
Well, to actually on a high note or a heavy note in a different kind of heavy way. I did go to the state fair last night.
I know.
And
when you sent me the list of all the things you ate, I was really afraid you were going to be sick today.
So we did try, and I did record, so that I'm going to be working on the editing it this weekend. But to rank some of the Sporkies, the Sporky finalists. So I ate the beer cheese Wisconsin lava cake.
Which I still think sounds pretty darn good.
It was good.
Was it good?
The deep fried apple pie from Saz's, the Wisconsin quesadilla, corn nuggets, and the funnel fries.
Anything stick out with you?
The beer cheese Wisconsin lava cake, very good.
Really?
Very good. If you like, I really like soft pretzels.
I do too.
Yes. So I'm for anyone who's still going to the state fair this weekend, definitely get the beer cheese Wisconsin lava cake. Definitely get the apple pie from Saz's. That ended up winning for fan favorite.
Oh, really?
And if you can get it, if you can also somewhere get some ice cream to put with it, that would be perfect. Both of those were really good. The corn nuggets were interesting. The corn nuggets were like kernels of corn that were fried, and then they had like a mango coleslaw thing on top. So it was actually a little bit more like it counterbalanced the friedness.
So a little
fresh fruitiness. That was pretty good. The funnel fries, you'd think with like the cheese curds and like bacon pieces on top, it would be a more even balance of sweet and savory. It was still very sweet
and dense.
And the Wisconsin quesadilla, make it at home. It's pieces of brat and cheese in a tortilla. The execution was not there. That was my least favorite. And those are my recommendations. All right. We'll be back on Monday. This has been Ask Goes Wisconsin.
State fair in our state.